Hello everybody and welcome back to another crypto video, and I have a question for you guys today. Is $2 per XRP possible in the month of October? Let me know in the comment section down below. Historically, October has been a very freaking bullish month. I've been shouting this for the last couple of days, and right now, if we take a look at the crypto prices, well, things are looking very, very good. So let me know in the comments section down below if you think it is possible, and let's dive right into the news. All right, first of all, XRP, because that's the coin I want to kind of start this off with, reaches a critical level as exchange inflow activities by whales surge. So on its own, this actually means almost nothing, right? Because exchange inflow, if it is paired with the same outflow, means nothing. It's just about inflow or outflow. It could basically be good or bad depending on how you see it. Let me explain this exactly to the core. So exchange inflows are basically deposits to exchanges. Exchange outflows are usually when people buy some XRP on the exchange, for example, and take it off. Inherently, inflows are bearish and outflows are bullish, depending on, of course, what the net flow is. The net flow being the inflow minus the outflow. If the net flow basically results in there's more going out than going in, hey, that's good. Otherwise, bad. However, that is like from a really plain point of view. These guys here are trying to make it a very significant article, even though it actually isn't. Because if you think about it, it's very logical that people put their XRP, for example, on exchanges like Bybit as an example, because they want to trade it, right? They want to trade more of it. It's also very logical that people put their extra money on exchanges, basically, if they want to send it to their friend. There could be 1,001 things, basically, which they could do. Most of it, these exchange inflows, happen during times of great volatility. And you might say, yeah, that means they're going to sell it. Could be. But that could also be that they're going to sell it to buy back more, as an example. It's just a little bit too much at face value that you kind of conclude here. You don't really know what's going on in the background, nor do we have the real numbers as to whether or not the inflow is actually greater than the outflow or not. Because once more, guys, the inflow could be billions of dollars, but if the outflow is more, then you know, you guys get me? I mean, for example, right now, today, a lot of people are selling XRP. Every day, right? But if there's more people buying, then the price goes up. So ultimately, this is a really misleading thing that you shouldn't let guide you too much. Now, one thing that you kind of should let guide you, if you ask me, is the fact that the judge is biased. This is a conclusion, and I'm talking about the Ripple v. SEC lawsuit, that a lot of the XRP community holders have gotten to today. And the fact that the bias is going to be kind of shown with John Deaton coming in. What I'm trying to say is that the judge basically showed the entire community and the entire world that she thinks it is necessary for some extra experts like John Deaton and co. to basically come in and help out Ripple's side. Why? Well, theoretically speaking, XRP holders and John Deaton are on one line. They basically represent each other. And theoretically speaking, they should have been with Camp SEC when they entered the lawsuit, because the SEC basically protects XRP investors, right? Or the US investors. So theoretically speaking, XRP holders shouldn't have had to join because SEC is representing them. However, since the judge decided that Ripple is more so representing XRP holders rather than the SEC, she's basically expressed that, well, she wants to see what the XRP holders have to say whenever making her decision. And if you really ask me, what she's basically done is making it so that the SEC, whenever they attack Ripple, has to try double as hard, because she now also has basically advisors that are bullish on XRP, and that she has basically already admitted have a lot more to do with Ripple rather than the SEC. So the advice she's going to get is biased. She knows it. We know it. But ultimately, if she wants to get these types of inflows, I guess that shows only bullish things though, right? If you ask me, she can of course decide to just negate every single thing that John says. But if that's the case, then why would you even invite him in? What's the purpose of getting them on? So I am really, really happy with this, guys. Whatever way people try to shift it, I'm still extremely excited for it. And then we got some additional news. The Federal Reserve adopts the ISO 20022 format for payments that Ripple is compliant with. The Federal Reserve plans to adopt new format for local and transnational payments that RippleNet is already a part of. And according to a press release that came out on Monday, the U.S. Federal Reserve spread the word that all Fed banks are going to implement the ISO 20022 system for Fed wire funds service. Curiously, Ripple's blockchain-based payment already is compliant with the ISO 20022 standard. Now, this new format of messaging, which is what it is, allows for the enhancement of real-time payments both at home and cross-border, and besides, it'll enable banks and other institutions to implement measures against money laundering. Also, the Fed board asked the public to comment on its plans to enable the FFS to run or start running on the ISO 20022. The board also suggests that the banks should not take 3 stages to adopt the new message plus format, but switch to it in one day. Which is very interesting. Now, guys, before we actually move on, make sure that you press the like button. And if you haven't done it yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to reach 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which is definitely possible if everybody who watches these videos subscribe to the channel. And I mean, if you watch them a lot anyway, then why not be part of the family is what I usually think. So again, it is a fact now that the federal service, basically, official name Fedwire Fund Service, runs on the same system as parts of Ripple. The FFS enables real-time settlements run by the Federal Reserve banks. The system enables financial institutions and corporations to make fast transactions in a secure manner. ISO 20022 was created by experts at the International Organization for Standardization, which we know of now. On October 1st of last year, Ripple's Senior Vice President Ashish Birla took to Twitter to announce that Ripple had already been compliant with ISO 20022 and therefore is ready for 2030. He believes the new standard, together with RippleNet, will completely change the industry of payments within the next 10 years. So this does not mean the Federal Reserve and Ripple are working together now, even though they kind of were already. We've seen before how Ripple was also part of this new Fedwire Fund Service to basically advise to some degree. I'm not sure if they were actually part of the final phases for it, but at least some of the starting ones. This basically just says they're using the same messaging system to some degree because Ripple is compliant with that. It does not mean that these guys, the Fed and Ripple, are like, hey, let's shake hands, let's do things together. It's just kind of I guess, a good thing to see. Let's put it like that. It's a good, nice little addition, and let's keep it at what it is, a good, nice little addition. All right, the leading Republican on House Financial Services Committee introduces a bill to establish a safe harbor for digital tokens. Now, I actually have another little piece of information on that, which is this right here. The US won't follow China in banning crypto, the SEC chief says. It's basically being questioned what the next step is going to be in the infrastructure bill or just in the crypto regulation, basically, what type of bill is going to be brought up. And there were some questions as to whether or not the SEC is going to follow China, whether or not there were plans to ban Bitcoin, whether or not there were plans to kind of make it more annoying and whatnot. They have now confirmed those are not in the pipeline. But what they have also confirmed, conversely, is that there's basically a new bill coming up, or at least being thought out by the Republican part, to basically make a safe harbor for digital tokens. Now, this is not the SEC. It's partially so. So a new bill seeks to codify into law a safe harbor for digital asset issuers. Derived from a long-standing proposal from Hester Peirce. I'm going to say Peirce from now on. The bill was introduced by Republican leadership of the House Financial Services Committee, alongside with news scrutiny for SEC Chairman Gary Gensler. Gensler will testify before the Financial Services Committee later today. And again, people are really hyped up right now because, well, the longer it takes, the more that people are basically hurt. They want a choice right now, as again, the infrastructure bill choice is going to be sent or basically decided by the House at the end of this month, supposedly. Now, there have already been some concerns that the spending is too high for the profits. There have already been some concerns that the tax on crypto is going to go up even, that they're going to come up with a new crypto tax, or that unrealized gains are also going to start getting taxable. All those things are rather scary. But I would say a more important remark to make is that crypto regulations right now are the central issue of the United States policy in terms of importance, if you ask me. I mean, there's so much money going around in it every single day, and there's so much interest in it, and there's just so much, even though I'm, of course, biased because I'm more part of it than the average American, I guess, or the average person. If you, again, look at the real numbers, the amount of fraudulent activity is pretty high, mostly in respect to where it could be were there proper rules. And the amount of basically wrongdoings are high from a, basically a perspective of what do we think is wrong ethically, what do we think is wrong? Purely because there aren't rules to kind of basically put out these fake things. What I mean with that, for example, is a lot of scam coins can exist. Why? Because if there were proper rules that made them, for example, have to register and this, that, but it's possible, they probably couldn't as easily. A lot of exchanges out there can easily scam still because, well, they could just register somewhere and it's all kind of fine. Even though there are some rules for exchanges and there are some rules for tokens and yada, 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 it's such a fine line between what is allowed and isn't allowed. And if all these countries just basically let go of some bigger statements like, hey, this is how we do it, this is how we do it, or if crypto were not such a vague term of what is and what isn't allowed. Like, for example, a decentralized exchange. What are the rules for it? I don't know. Right? A crypto exchange platform. What are the rules for it? Every country has some different rules, but is it the same as a normal exchange? Should it be so, as a securities exchange I'm talking about? Or are there different rules? Like, what are the requirements of an exchange? When do we allow one to be solid and when do we allow one to be bad, following the rules? It's also difficult. But that's all right now a central issue. And it needs to be fixed within 1 year. There just need to be some freaking decisions, man. They need to start making some decisions. It's been taking too freaking long, if you ask me. India now ranks second on the Global Crypto Adoption Index. Okay, that sounds pretty damn cool. So, according to new research from Chainalysis, I've actually checked this out already. A new report from Chainalysis says that crypto usage in Vietnam, India, and Pakistan top the global crypto index. Usage in Pakistan and Vietnam is more similar to gambling, whereas India is more mature, and Ethereum adoption in India is higher than in other two countries. Well, all I wanted to say about this one is when we last looked at the numbers, I think last week, we saw that India's adoption is indeed completely insane. And so I don't like to really go too far into where exactly their interest is because I think that's actually really, really difficult to measure correctly. But what I do like to know is that if you look at the numbers as to how much of the population is just into crypto and basically why, you can understand these guys are getting into and want to get into crypto mostly for the sake of to basically get a better return on their money or have some sort of way out from the traditional system. Otherwise, why would it be so interesting over there, right? They know this is the future, partially, but they also know there's just so many parts in crypto which make your day-to-day lives better, or there's so much money to be gotten. These guys know it. A lot of people over there know. DeFi, which again they say is really, really popular over there, it's so liberating if you understand DeFi properly. And I also think that the higher the number is in a country, the higher it's going to get, because people tell people, friends tell friends, and once you've been introduced to DeFi, you cannot go to centralized normal finance anymore. It's just, you can kind of stay part of the system, but it's so hard to want to use centralized finance when you've been into DeFi because it's so much better in every way, shape, or form. And that's why I sometimes argue that those numbers will only kind of keep going up. And if you have the mass adoption, it's going to basically be a domino effect as, again, more draws in more, draws in more. And a lot of Indians, at least the ones that I've spoken, are generally pretty excited about crypto if you ask them. And I have spoken to quite a lot. Here over in Dubai, there's actually a lot of Indian and Pakistani people. For the majority of people I've spoken here, they don't really invest into it. But whenever I talk in Discord, for example, or on Telegram with people from India or Pakistan, again, I know it's a little bit biased, but they usually tell that all their friends are into it, or I check Instagram and they're pretty up for it. So I think the difference might be that a lot of people that I meet here are basically working class, so like just really workers for minimum pay, and they don't even have money or time to look up into cryptocurrencies. Then again, if you think about it, the remittances over to India and from India, mostly towards India, are so high as well. I guess it's also something that they should all be looking into, huh? Specifically, I guess XRP is a good currency for them all. But that's all besides the point. Arab Bank, new topic, has chosen Tezos to finally facilitate institutional custody service. Oh no, this is not finally, but just facilitate. I actually don't know too much about this. I just saw it. I was like, hey, you know what? I don't cover Tezos too much. Let me know if you like the coin down below. The Arab Bank has chosen Tezos to facilitate institutional custody service. Switzerland firm is an independent sister company of Arab Bank PLC. And they've chosen Tezos. Yeah, pretty cool, right? The Arab Bank Switzerland announced Tuesday that it will integrate staking, trading, and custody services onto the Tezos blockchain native token. in a bid to provide a digital asset environment for institutions, corporations, and high net worth individuals. Pretty damn cool, guys. Then this is one thing I have gotten open a couple of times but didn't get to cover. The ATMs over the world are freaking spreading. Over 10,000 Bitcoin ATMs installed globally in 2021 as demand for crypto surges. I really do wonder why a crypto ATM is a nice thing. Like I've said it before, there's almost no scenario ever that I think a Bitcoin ETF is, sorry guys, not an ETF, ATM is a smart thing. If you really want to cash in some crypto quickly, okay, yeah, but how often does that happen? That your last $100, for example, because that's often the maximum that you can withdraw or deposit, both of them, very often at the machines. It's like a really low maximum. How often do you need your 100 last bucks that are into crypto? And if that's the case, are you investing in a smart manner if that's the way? Because why would I want to cash out? Like, the fees are ridiculously high. The rate is always very freaking bad. What's the purpose for the ATM? Just to show people that I can? Yeah, but I don't really get it, guys. And I really haven't figured out exactly why it's a smart idea. In my opinion, it's better to just get a card like a Coinbase card or a Binance card or a Crypto.com card and then use that one to kind of, maybe withdraw something or something. I don't know. Bitcoin ATM on its own, I don't really know why. Same thing for depositing. The rate is so bad, so extremely bad. You can usually do $100. It's better to think of anything else rather than doing it. Then again, I think people who, I guess the depositing part I can kind of, for some perspective, see. But it might just be better to deposit to a bank and then buy it on a platform. But maybe that takes longer. I don't know. I'm not even sure how fast if you deposit on one of them goes. I think a lot of them are actually withdrawal only now that I'm thinking about it. But all right. And then JPMorgan Chase chairman Jamie Dimon says Bitcoin is fool's gold. Per Dimon, Bitcoin does not have intrinsic value and regulators would tighten clampdowns on it. I've talked before about intrinsic value. It's such a hard thing to measure. And regulators will tighten clampdowns on it. I think so. Is that a bad thing though? And while the banker believes Bitcoin is fool's gold, he said it would be around for a long time. Dimon advocates for crypto regulation because he claims the sector harbors criminals. Well, again, to kind of talk about that one, criminals, there's way more criminal money in the cash system. Even in the traditional system, there's way more of it than in crypto, even relatively, percentage-wise in anything. In crypto, it's actually relatively low. But the majority of these stories are bad, but it's also partially because of the unregulated nature of it all, which of course will be fixed in due time because it's a really relatively new industry. Now, one thing about kind of the fool's gold, even if it was relative to gold, it's all... Fool's gold is a funny expression because is gold actually that good and then a fool's gold is something bad? Yeah, really? Well, why is gold that good then? Because it has intrinsic value? Yes, but even the word intrinsic value, as I've kind of put up a couple of times before, you guys know I like economics, right? I have kind of questioned the intrinsic value as a word a couple of times before because does gold really have intrinsic value? Yes, it does. It's something you can touch. It's basically a scarce entity, and you basically have to mine it, which costs money. So it has intrinsic value. Has a dollar bill got intrinsic value? Yes, but no. The intrinsic value of a dollar bill is a very small piece of paper. It's almost neglectable. Now, people often say, oh, just because gold is so valuable, every small piece of it is intrinsic value. It becomes actually kind of difficult with kind of noting what intrinsic value really is when you kind of start thinking about the digital sense of things. Can something completely digital have intrinsic value? Well, following the definition, almost never really know. Because if you can't touch it, where's the intrinsic value? Cash has intrinsic value, but very low. Gold has pretty high intrinsic value. But let's say that the value of gold plummeted to almost near zero. Does gold really have intrinsic value? Yeah, you can still use it for some chips and you can still kind of, wear it as fashion. You can still kind of hold it in your hands. So it's still intrinsic. Yeah, but the value of whatever you're talking about then is almost zero. So does intrinsic value really matter? Oh, man. You guys get what I'm trying to go with that little question? It's like with Bitcoin, it's almost the same as with gold in the sense that you can't really hold it, but there's so much money invested into the acquiring of that Bitcoin, and it's backed by the system behind it. For example, the thousands of nodes or more importantly, just the mining equipment, the money that's been allocated to it. Same thing for the gold's mining equipment. I would say that that's more of the value of the gold or the Bitcoin than the fact that you can hold it or you can use it, for example, the gold for chips or anything like that. Because the value that it has right now, you can almost say is irrelevant because that's, again, supply and demand. Gold really doesn't have to be worth that much. It's just what people or crazy people decide to pay for it, really, if you think about it. Because why otherwise would gold be so high? Because it's scarce? Yeah, but I mean, it's still people just valuing it that way because, I mean, gold, is it really that useful? No. Silver is more useful, but it's less scarce. So if we actually follow supply and demand, there should be way more demand for silver rather than gold because you can use silver for way more. It's just because, again, I'm talking about real literal demand, right? There's also more demand for silver, but there's also more supply. Then again, why would there actually be so much demand for gold? Whatever, I'm going into a little bit of a rant, guys. I want to kind of cut it off here before I go on for hours. Thank you all for stopping by, saying hi, and watching these videos. I really enjoy you guys' company. It's always amazing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more crypto news and more sometimes small rants. And I'll see you guys again. That's also why I put those timestamps down. And you know when DustPC is going off again, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys again in another one.